Hi, and welcome to our case study where we'll talk about how we were able to bring $623,000 in cash that was tied in a company's inventory by helping them improve the way they were managing their inventory. In this case study, we'll talk about the diagnostic process we went through to identify the pain points, talk about the implementation, the specific projects and tasks that we incorporated. Finally, the results that add up to $623,000. Let's jump right into it. So this was a company that was struggling with cash. They had been in business for 7 years. They had reduced profitability. They had slow growth after the third year, but they were growing. However, their inventory was growing faster than their revenue, and there were no proper controls or processes for purchases. So what did we do? Well, we ran a diagnostic on the company and looked at their inventory, and this is what we found. First of all, there was no inventory analysis, right? The impact of that is that the inventory was building up, right? A lot of the purchasing happened based on eyeballing empty spots on the shelves, or by looking at what was leaving the shop to make a purchase. But sometimes not reviewing what was available in the inventory would lead to having this inventory buildup. There was no purchasing planning, which meant chaotic purchases. Again, if you're eyeballing for empty spots instead of looking at a system that tells you how much inventory there is and where is it located, it's not always visible, then the company was making purchases sometimes when they were not needed. There was no sales and operations planning, right? So this led to inefficient cash flow. If you don't align your sales with your operations, your production, and the available inventory, then you're going to probably purchase more than you need. On the flip side, if you uh, integrate sales and have conversations with your operations and inventory, then you can be aligned on which items you are long in the inventory and which items you are short in the inventory, allowing you to optimize the use of your cash. Then there was no visibility of the inventory since there was no proper analysis, which led to cost creeps, increases in insurance, and increases in carrying costs. Then finally, there was no accountability. Spend was uncontrolled. Nobody really had a say or a budget on the inventory. Again, everything was done on the basis of eyeballing or seeing inventory leave the shop. So what did we do? Well, we ran a 75-day implementation of different parts of the inventory, different analysis, and we perform a 2-week training for the team so that they can know exactly where to look, how to use these tools, and then take the lead from that point on. So we started with an ABC analysis, which led to visibility. The ABC analysis allowed us to categorize inventory by A, B, and C, A being high or fast moving inventory, B being medium moving inventory, and C being slow moving inventory. If you have that visibility, then you're able to have better reorder points, know which items move faster, know which items you're long on, and then you can protect the cash position for the company. Then we incorporated inventory reporting, which was not taking place, which led to clarity. Now the company could understand patterns that after 7 years in the business, they could see the seasonality, but now they added precision to it. So they were able to not be extremely long on some items, and they had the opportunity to reduce costs that way by not purchasing as much as they had before. Then ownership, we assigned 2 people to own the inventory and own the inventory budget so that there was accountability, right? The inventory was meant to be kept at a certain level so that the company did not have a lot of money on the shelves. Then on the practical side, we reduced the inventory and inventory costs, which brought in a little over $400,000 in inventory that was sitting there that could be reclaimed and be used without needing to purchase. We incorporated that sales and operations planning process so that the company was able to bring $221,000 from aligning sales with production and inventory. Now, again, the purchases are not needed if you have inventory in place. And if you communicate with your sales team, they're going to know exactly which items they can move faster, which items they can sell at a discount, and which items they can promise and maybe create a little backlog and get some cash up front. All right, so the added cash overall was $623,000 out of creating this inside of 90 days. Now let's look at how this was broken down. The first results were visible in the first 30 days from reducing the excess inventory in the tune of $205,000. The ABC analysis led us to be efficient with the reorder points. Some reorder points were adjusted to happen earlier and some were adjusted to happen later. And we also reduced the SLOB, also known as slow and obsolete inventory, that was not doing anything for the company. And in some cases, this is one of those anecdotes, the company was long on some of the C-type inventory, the slow-moving inventory, and they had inventory for 22 years of some items. Granted, they were not very expensive, but you don't need 22 years of inventory sitting there and paying for storage and insurance. We're going to look at that in a second. Then we reduced the carrying cost in the tune of $183,000. By eliminating excess inventory, you also lower your insurance. And this hurts a lot when you realize that you're paying insurance for SKUs, for inventory that you're not using. And maybe you might not use for 6 months, sometimes a year. You're paying insurance for that. You're also paying storage costs in case you have a variable lease or space for your warehouse. And we reduced the warehouse staff. We did not let go of anybody. We basically split their time in half. So that half of the time they were in the warehouse and half of the time they were supporting the two newly created positions of the inventory management. Then there was this is a little extra of $14,000 that came from the inventory write-off. Remember that obsolete inventory that we identified? Well, you are allowed, once it's obsolete, you have to destroy it or have a proof that you got rid of it or that you cannot sell it in that state. And you're allowed to have a loss of inventory in your P&L, loss from inventory obsolescence. So that creates a tax benefit. And in this case, the tax benefit represented $14,000 for the company that they did not need to pay in taxes at the end of the year. And then finally, the improved cash flow that came mostly from aligning sales and operations. Now they had a better alignment on what needed to be purchased, and this reduced the originally planned, or, well, there was no proper plan back then, but they had a rule that they had to have 4 weeks of inventory in hand for all items, even though not all items were made equal. So we reduced the purchasing due to the improved planning. Overall, we brought in the $623,000 inside of 90 days. So if you're serious and interested in having this type of analysis done for your company, we perform a 100% free assessment that you get to keep. We provide the insights, we identify any pain points, and provide this audit to you. Now, if you're interested in doing it yourself, you're free to do it. But if you would like us to do it, we perform a 90-day, no-cost implementation. There are no upfront costs because we like to bring value to you first. Our business is based on the ROI that we bring, so our fees come from the value we create. They don't come from retainers or hourly fees. So if you'd be interested in learning a little more and exploring how we can help you, I invite you to set up a strategy call with us, and we'll be happy to hear and see what your business is all about and see if we can be of service. I wish you a great rest of your day. Bye.